Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabados of Delmar, together with my co-host Mark Ronich. That's jbiztechvalley.com and statewide news. We have a very, very special guest with us, Mr. Frank Commisso Jr. He's the Albany Council member in the 15th Ward. Frank, can I call you Frank?
Absolutely.
Formal. And then, Frank, welcome to the Jewish View.
Thank you for having me here, and happy to be here at the studio and on Channel Albany.
Yeah.
Listen, where is the 15th Ward for people? You know, they just know the numbers, kind of give the boundaries.
Glad you mentioned that. We had a redistricting this year. We have to do a redistricting every 10 years in the city. And we have 15 wards, and the wards have to be the same in size with little deviation. The 15th Ward now includes the Uptown SUNY campus. And of course, there's a neighborhood that runs along south of the SUNY campus up to the Harriman campus. And it's a nice, diverse community because you have a group of students, you have a group of seniors. They have different sets of issues that matter to them, and going to try my best to be responsive to those and be a good council member over the next 4-year term.
So for people who know the Western Avenue corridor, you go from the Guilderland border, and then where the Stewarts is, you kind of, I forgot the street the Stewarts is on, but...
A little further, right up to the entrance of the Harriman.
Right, and a little bit further, but the Stewarts, you go down there, and your district goes all the way to the Bethlehem border.
That's correct.
So you got Guilderland and Bethlehem bordering you on two sides, right?
Absolutely.
And then you have, so that's the, behind with Key Bank and behind the Stewarts, and that little enclave of homes is where is your district.
It's a great district and a great place to call home.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just wondering because I remember, like they say, students. Now, students are 18 years old, and obviously you're allowed to vote at 18 years old. How many students really participate? I mean, they say, hey, Albany's my home, even though they're living in these dorms, and they just say, well, I'm here for a few years, and then I'm going to leave, and I'm going to keep my real voting residence in Long Island. So how many do they, do they really vote? I mean, obviously you have to take care of them because they're part of your,
Absolutely.
your district, but I mean, are they really a positive force in the district, or they come in for a few years, goodbye, good luck, I don't care what happens at all?
Historically, the participation of the students in local elections has been low. In presidential years, or when there's a presidential primary, you get massive turnouts at SUNY, of course, because there's such a higher level of media attention, and that's great. And it's something to see that polling place when there's a presidential. But that said, I'm hopeful going forward that there'll be a higher level of participation in city elections, county elections, state elections, because one of the things I do tell constituents at SUNY is that in many cases, while there's the higher levels of interest in what's going on at the federal government with the president, Congress, local government in many cases is most directly touching people's lives, whether it's through the provision of public safety services, through the maintenance and investments that we do put into our infrastructure, through education. That's where I believe that there's that most direct effect, and I encourage students every time to participate here locally in the election.
So I know that Indian Quad is in your district.
Correct.
Is State Quad in your district now, or is that?
That's correct.
It is, okay, because it used to be in, I guess, Herring's district on the other side on Washington Avenue. A long time ago, maybe.
There's one, Dutch is
split between Guilderland and Albany. I lived on Dutch 3 years.
And I've heard some amazing stories behind why that is, but yeah, let's just say that it's split over to Guilderland.
Each quad is a quarter mile apart. I mean, it's just symmetrical, and Rockefeller didn't care where the municipal boundary was. This is where Edward Durrell Stone was the architect. This is the way it was going to be, regardless of where the municipal boundary was.
Yes, and
is that the sanitized version?
Well, I've heard in some instances that there is federal funding that is tied to population, and that population was divided in that way, purposely, with purpose. But I'd have to have a real Albany historian that not only understands Albany, but also
Like Jack McInerney.
politics and the intersection of history and
Yeah.
politics to fully delve into that.
But, so do you have colonial quad in your district?
That's correct. I'm
Because
exclusively inside the ring road now.
Okay, because that's different from when I went to college. When I went to college there, it was divided up in more than one, at that time they called them aldermen, more than one common council person.
I am proud to say that
Yeah.
when we went through our redistricting process this year at the city council, I fought very hard to ensure that we had a compact, contiguous SUNY.
Well, I would think that you can relate more to the students. I mean, you look like could be one of the students if you weren't in a suit. You look young, you know, and you probably are young.
Yes,
so you're not too far out of college where you can still go back and relate to them. So that probably helps.
Yeah, and I do relate to students in many ways. I mean, I have education debt from college, and I'm very aware of concerns students have with leaving SUNY, then going out into the job market. We hope that we can retain as many of these young professionals as we can from SUNY here in the Albany area. Unfortunately, in some cases, students do go back home, and we do have a lot of students at SUNY from downstate, of course, but I think I can relate to some of the concerns they have coming out of school at an age of 21, 22 years old.
Who represents the downtown SUNY campus? Is that Leah Golby, or is that because I was wondering, just generally, philosophically, if there's a problem, an issue with the downtown campus and robberies and other crime and violence, do you get into that because there needs to be a connection between uptown and downtown campus? Even
Not necessarily if it's on the downtown campus, but I do give the university credit. They've taken their staff and they hold a monthly meeting at at the police station, Center Station.
And you go to
and they do have, in some cases, council members there. I've seen county officials attend before that represent smaller districts. So they have set up a mechanism whereby there's that correspondence is there through the letter and the email that goes out, and then there's an actual meeting where if there's an issue that you think might be broader and then you're just your parochial district, that you can air those, and I found that forum SUNY seems to have open eyes, open ears.
Okay. What is your focus on the Common Council, and what do you hope to, and how long have you been on the Common Council, and what do you hope to achieve?
Sure.
In your
Well, I've been on the council 3.5 years, and this is the end
your
of
first term.
Yes, this is the end of my first term on the council. A second term is starting. We're going to have a whole host of new actors in city government, both on the Common Council, where you'll have nearly half the council be new members, and of course we'll have a new mayor and a new treasurer. So it's very interesting when you take the cast and it all changes. That said, I think that we need to have a more independent council going forward. You know, if you look at the history of Albany over the past century, whether it's a Mayor Corning, a Mayor Whaling, or a Mayor Jennings, the council has largely been very similar to the board of a
Well, the Politburo.
it's been the equivalent of a board of a public authority that approves the decisions of executive management, and I take issue with that.
I think up until the 1990s, there had never been a no vote in the Common Council.
I didn't know that fact, but
Yeah.
it's, you know, and I've heard from predecessors who were on the council
Right.
decades back. They said the meetings used to be 15 minutes.
That's right.
The whole script was called, everybody came in, and it just moved
All
along.
worked out in conference because there's no Republican, there's no minority leader.
Yeah, and I'm glad we've come this far. I think
Now you
we
got to
need,
get a minority leader, get a Republican in there, you know, somewhere. No, maybe not.
maybe not in Albany, but you know, I'm glad it's come this far, where we have more public participation through the
Yes.
public comment process, where we have more committee meetings, and there's more of a deliberative, open, objective process. That said, I do think we need to go further, and that's a credit in part to the council president, Carolyn McLaughlin, the president pro tem, Richard Conti. I think that, you know, they've been part of that process to bring it here.
And then
We need to
Dan
go further.
Herring is the majority leader?
That's correct. Dan Herring is the majority leader, and the committee chairs,
Right.
you know, that's a credit to them.
So which committees are you on?
Finance,
Okay.
and that's the majority of my focus on the council.
Right.
I'm also on the General Services, Health and Environment Committee, and that's a very active committee as well because, and I think it will be an active committee going forward because we are one of only two municipalities in New York State with a municipally owned, municipally operated landfill, and we have issues to deal with there, both financially and environmentally. And then I'm also on the Council Operations and Ethics, which...
Ethics.
Ethics,
Ethics.
yes. Well, that committee handles the redistricting, and it may be quiet the next
See,
4-year
I always
term.
thought assembly ethics was an oxymoron, but maybe common council ethics is more real.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, I think my colleagues on the council and I would like to think everybody is, gets up every day and tries to really say, how do we
Okay.
do some good work
Here
here?
on the budget, they always say the Albany budget is in shambles. I mean,
Yes.
that's one of the reasons
Sure.
the mayor says I had enough, and it's on your head. It's maybe on your head because you're the budget person. But what led the budget to go downhill? I mean, it seems like Albany's a fairly steady economy. I mean, even though it's a recession, I know, going on, but I mean, I don't know the numbers. That's I'm asking.
It's a multitude of factors. I mean, largely, I think that we're way behind the times on managing our healthcare expenses in the city of Albany. That's not to say that we need to make healthcare cuts. There's ways that we can be smarter and have significant savings related to providing healthcare to active employees and retirees. So healthcare is a major cost driver. Additionally, I think on the revenue side of the budget, because solving a budget crisis isn't all about cutting costs. It's half of the equation is cutting costs. By necessity, the other half is about revenues. We have a tax levy that there's really no more ability to pay from many seniors on fixed incomes and from many people throughout the city. So what I've argued for and I'm hopeful of is that in some cases with the large not-for-profits, the more corporate in structure not-for-profits, and these are institutions that do great things in the city, but when you look at an Albany Medical Center, a St. Peter's, a St. Rose, an Albany Law, an Albany Pharmacy, we have to look and have a very collaborative relationship and discussion with them, and we'll have a report coming out soon out of the city on a commission that I was on that is going to start the process of saying how can they be involved in paying for some of the services that they consume, and I think that's a good thing.
Is there a way to monetize the services of what they use? Is there a way, or is it just sort of, I guess the term is pilot payment in lieu of taxes, but I mean, are they just going to be thought of to just have a payment?
Well, there's
to
two
the
ways.
city, or?
There's really two ways to achieve that. I mean, take the mayor of Syracuse, for example, Stephanie Miner. She's been very successful in lobbying the not-for-profits within her community. And I'm talking about the non-government tax-exempt institutions, and having a system of pilot payments coming into the city general fund to pay for the most expensive services: police, fire, street repair, emergency medical service, etc. There's municipalities in Rhode Island that have been very successful. There's Massachusetts that receive significant monies every year to provide for these services. I think we need to do that here in the city of Albany and have those discussions, but we need to remain very conscious that Albany Med is a large employer, St. Peter's is a large employer, they're great neighbors, they do great things in our community. They invest.
We're the
Yeah.
biggest.
They're the
Absolutely.
largest, yeah.
They provide huge investments into our neighborhoods that desperately need those investments.
Right.
So it's a balancing act, and by no means is this an attempt to demonize these
And just
entities.
a few years ago, I mean, maybe 6 years, 7 years ago, Albany Med was crying poverty. They were saying they were in debt. They were saying they couldn't, do this, that. Now all of a sudden they're building and burgeoning and taking over the South End. So, they went from being in a huge deficit. I don't know if you remember those days, but
Right, and they've done a significant job investing in the Park South neighborhood. Going forward, they have a plan now that's very ambitious in nature, and they have partners on that plan, so it looks like it may very well be a reality in the near future. We still have a few approvals to make over at the council related to this. But, we need to say, in addition to those investments in that neighborhood that desperately needed it, what else can be done here to help pay for those most essential services?
What about just maybe a revenue idea of like taking that round there, the Greyhound station, and making it into a convention center? Would that be a loser or maybe a gainer? You know, like bringing in so many more events into the Albany area.
To me, I don't think the convention center idea is the most effective use of the $63 million remaining in the state appropriation. That said, I know our state officials and our county government friends and people in city government, they want that $63 million appropriation for the city of Albany. It needs to come here to the city of Albany. If it was up to me, I could find needs related to our infrastructure needs in the city of Albany, certainly related just to water and sewer. We have $63 million of needs in this city where people have had problems with flooding, and we have streets and sidewalks that need repairs. But that said, one way or another, we need that $63 million here. Do I think it necessarily needs to be a convention center? Absolutely not.
Okay, but I'm going to make a pitch to you right now.
Sure.
If the convention center is going to be a fait accompli, I would like for you to talk to them about having a kosher kitchen at the convention center, so people have a place for weddings and bar mitzvahs and, you know, a nice hall where they can actually have, and that would attract people from all around to come to Albany, but they need a kosher kitchen first in order to prepare it. And it's easier to build it when you're building the complex than to retrofit. So that's my pitch to you.
May I tell you, though, the big concern about a convention center is in a northeastern city where we have nasty winters. I mean, what's going to be that vacancy rate there?
That's right. Well, this is a good way to improve the vacancy rate, to have less of a vacancy rate. Because if you have bar mitzvahs and weddings, and there's no place here. People go down to Orange County and Rockland County. I can't tell you how many times I've been on the thruway that I've been going out of town.
For the same price, if you were an organization throwing a convention, and you could choose Phoenix, Arizona, or Albany, New York. You know, and I think you're right. If it is done, hopefully the Convention Center Authority will be very conscious of any additional amenities that can be added to this facility to attract as many conventions as possible.
Thank you. I hope that you can help with that.
Anytime, Mark. Thank you. Thank you. No, absolutely.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to let the audience know that you're an auditor with the State Comptroller's Office.
Yes.
So being on the Finance Committee, you have a lot of expertise. This is what you went to college for. You have a master's or a bachelor's in finance? Or
bachelor's.
Bachelor's in finance.
In economics and government. But
better you than me.
You know,
I couldn't deal with economics in college.
It's torturous when you take micro, quantitative, but beyond that, you can get through it. In all seriousness, I mean, I work at a great place daytime. I work down at 110 State Street for the State Comptroller, Tom DiNapoli, and the State Comptroller's, you know, I'm in his state audit shop, so we audit the state agencies and public authorities in New York State, and I think we've done a great job there, and the Comptroller has our priorities aligned correctly. I mean, we're active in the education sector, we're active in the healthcare sector, we're active when it comes to public authorities and trying to bring additional light onto their activities. So I think we've done a great job there, and it's a great place to work, and I've been very fortunate to work with some great people.
Now, when you were elected, you were part of a class of 7 new members on the council? Six new members on the council.
I had to think for a moment.
So that was the largest class of new members at the time.
My recollection is that is correct.
Okay. Now we're coming in to having 7 new members.
Potentially 7. You know, there's a few that are still waiting on the absentee ballots and that. But
well,
yes,
either
7.
way, it's going to be 7 new members. 3 incumbents were defeated, and there were 4 retirees.
Yes.
So either way, that's 7. That's a bigger class than what you thought. So 13 new members, or if, in essence, because some of the freshmen were defeated. But you got a lot of the council is going to be new in the past 4 to 8 years.
That's correct.
That's pretty wild, because you never would have had that under the machine, as they say.
No, you wouldn't have. Years ago, I mean, it was a different process, but I think that the public has different demands now, and you know, they're going to ask that you know, this council is accountable and is objective in their analysis, and I think that we have people coming on the council and people on the council with backgrounds such that I think that will happen. That, you know, you have a diverse group of people, with some people that have backgrounds in government, some others We do have a handful of members that have left state government. Some people with backgrounds either with not-for-profits or education. So, I think that there's a diverse background there, and hopefully when we deal with some of the big issues coming up over the next term, city finances we discussed, and how we go forward with waste management in the city and what the plan is related to waste management and our municipally owned, municipally operated landfill. Hopefully people will bring those talents and those life experiences to the table.
What is it about the 15th Ward that you weren't one of the ones who were challenged? And it doesn't seem like there are people. I mean, was Sandra Fox there before?
She was the council member prior to me. She was my predecessor. Yes.
Right. She was never challenged. And, and I'm just wondering, what is it about this 15th Ward? Are they politically active? Are they kind of just...
No, I mean...
do you have a large turnout in elections?
We have large turnouts.
Yeah.
Per person. I mean, on a per person level, we have large turnouts, but we have savvy voters, I think, that they do follow what's going on in the city, county, and state, and federal governments. They're politically active.
Okay.
We do have
so then that just means you're doing a phenomenal job and that there's no one who can achieve what you're doing. And I think that's a wonderful testament. The rabbi will give you a blessing later for this.
I have nothing additional to say. No, it's a pleasure serving that ward because, again, as I told you before, I mean, it's a great blend. You have, on one hand, half the ward is students, and I can relate to their needs. On the other half, you do have a more senior population with people that are concerned about the city finances. They're on fixed incomes. A tax increase to them is really additional money out of their disposable income on a monthly basis. You have people that are they're concerned about the issues I talked about with the not-for-profits and what their role will be going forward in the city, and it's been a pleasure, and I look forward to doing it again.
Let me ask you this other thing. You're not on the housing committee, and maybe housing is not something that you're particularly focused on, but I'm looking around and I'm looking at these homes around here, and there's very little new construction. The homes that are built around here were built in the 1960s. People had one car, so there was a one-car garage. They have a large house, only one-car garage. The closet situated, people used to put things under the bed, so they don't have as many closets. You just have homes that were from a different era where we live differently now. Isn't there something where these homes need to be, these smaller homes, these cottages, or we used to call them bungalow-style homes? I mean, I hate to say it for the people who are living there, but shouldn't they be leveled and then just like sort of build a new neighborhood, and if we had our druthers and we were on just writing a script about it? I mean, aren't these homes like old enough where we really do need new construction to accommodate the needs of today's society?
I think in many instances we can. We can refit homes and have some infill development. I mean, many times I hear the number cited that we have 800 vacant buildings in the city of Albany, and some estimates put it higher, closer to 1,000 vacant buildings in the city of Albany. I mean, there's good local work that can be provided there by refitting those homes. There's, in some cases, young men and women that can learn a trade by working on a local home, and we can turn that into an affordable housing unit where the rent is.
Well, that would be like in the South End or in Arbor Hill, but let's say, bring it home to your district or where, because your district has narrow streets, your district has a lot of smaller homes, smaller size homes. I mean, isn't there something that could be done to, even in the upper wards, to have something more accommodating for people? I mean, is it up to an individual to buy two homes, level both, and then build one big one? I mean,
Well, I don't think that, here locally, I mean, that's not something that, I really see ever exercised in my ward,
right.
Strictly because I don't think the finances, I don't think it would make a nice financial proposition for someone to come in and have two demolitions and a new build at this time, and with the local tax rates we have here in New York State. I mean, I've never seen that in the ward I represent. Certainly, I mean, we do have some older homes, but I think that they have, in some cases, these are very beautiful homes with beautiful landscapes around them. And,
Charming.
There's another word. And, you know, I think that it adds, you know, it's a very unique feel in the ward I represent. As you said, we have narrow roads, no sidewalks in many cases.
Right.
And that was one
like
of,
it that way.
well,
I've heard.
they do, and
They
that
like
used
it
to
that
be
way.
in a rural area in the city many years ago. And it was developed in you know, I don't think we had people with the planning backgrounds that we have now
Right.
in the 21st century.
That's right.
Perhaps things would have been differently, been done differently, but you know, it has a nice feel to it, and we have a good neighborhood, and people seem to really get along with their neighbors.
Well, you have
there.
low crime rate in your area. You have what, Eagle Hill in your?
Low crime,
Eagle Point?
yeah, low crime is in, you know, you hear about on the news crime and reading the paper crime, low crime is measured by that. You know, you do have some quality of life infractions
Right.
that go on, and I think that's not just true about my ward, I mean, that's true about many areas in the city where
You look at the 8th and 9th wards, I get, you know, neighborhood associations tell me, I get all their emails, and it's incredible.
Right. Now, you know, that said, you know, I understand the police department has to be very attentive to a shots fired called over over a noise violation at 11 o'clock at night. But you know, we do have those quality of life concerns there. And,
But it's also not just 2 officers. I mean, they could still send one guy to the shots fired and the other guy to the quality of life thing. I mean, we have a huge police force here.
Point taken.
Yeah.
We do have a huge police force.
We're not,
And,
you know, we're not Mayberry with Barney Fife and Andy Griffith.
no, we're not. We have a much more professionalized department than you referenced. But yeah, and hopefully, you know, one of the things that the police department has tried to do over the past 4 years is maintain the concept of zone integrity, whereby you know, there's a patrol car within zones that are on a map in the city, and they try to maintain that zone integrity, and you know, it gets down to a budgetary matter where we're trying to make sure we're funding that department appropriately, but that's something we strive to maintain.
Let me ask you, as you have been over the past 3 years, do you see factions? I mean, even though the council is all Democrat, 15 members plus the Common Council president, which is the next in line for the mayor, if the mayor doesn't keep his post, whatever. Do you think that there are factions within the Common Council, that there are, you know, the old guard, the older guard, and then the more progressive newer guard, or do you just find that you're so cohesive and so kumbaya that it's all good?
You know, Mark, I mean, I'll tell you, especially after the primary we just had, I mean, old guard, new guard isn't really relevant anymore.
Right. That's why I said older.
You know,
guard, and not to say that
and
it's
listen, I mean, I'll say, I mean, the victories that was had by the self-described progressive Democrats here in the city of Albany. I mean, it was machine-like. I mean, they won council races, they won the mayor's treasurer's race.
So you
I
find
tend to
that
have
you're-
many friends on that side, but you know, I don't judge people by titles. I don't prejudge people. You know, I have to work on the council the same regardless of some faction. I mean, this isn't some, you know, middle school lunch. I mean, let's hope not.
It looks like it sometimes, once in a while, but
To
you're
me,
right. It's,
you
for
know,
the most part, it's all, you know, people all have to work together, and the people who get frustrated often leave, and it shakes itself out.
And I got to work the same with, you know, Joe Igo's the council member in the adjacent ward to the one I represent. I got to work the same with Ron Bailey, who's the council member in Arbor Hill. I mean, I got to work with everybody there and try to achieve some better goods. And hopefully, and I really hope this, that in the next council, the parochial view and the term, quote, my ward, unquote, I mean, I hope that goes away, because we have to take a broader view. We can't just say what's right for our one neighborhood and have that reaction. We need to start taking a broader look and looking at one Albany.
Amen. I agree with that tremendously. Do you have any prospects of what you might want to do if you're going to be on the council for many years? I mean, it looks like you have a safe seat. You know, it doesn't look like there are many people challenging an incumbent in your district. So do you look to see something higher office at some point, or?
You know, I'd run for higher office once before. It came up short in that endeavor. But I'll tell you, I really love what I'm doing daytime at the controller's office. I work with a group of professionals that every day I go in and I'm excited to go to work.
Oh, that's right. You went to the assembly?
I had run for higher office previously, yes.
Yeah, that was
Last year in the assembly
oh,
seat,
that's
that
what it
was
Pat Fahey.
yes.
Oh, okay.
And-
I didn't make the connection until now.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. That was one primary. I mean, there was 6 people running in that one. But I came up a little short in that one. You know, I love what I'm doing at the controller's office. I love what I'm doing at the Common Council, and
Right.
I look forward to working with the new
Well, I
group.
look forward to seeing you for many years. And go ahead, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Give him the blessing.
Giving the blessing to Frank that you should be successful in what you do, and whatever your heart desires, you should be successful in that also, with good health and a lot of happiness. Thank you for being on the Jewish View.
Thank you. Thank you for having
Okay,
me.
it's great to see you.
Thank you.